This is Fitzgerald Witika from Research Expert Solutions. Okay, so I'll be running you through the model that has been designed to actually monitor and evaluate your sales over time. That was recently designed by Research Expert Solutions, in particular by myself. So what I'll be talking about is basically how to use the model. Yeah, so basically what you see here is the interface of the model, and of course you have the logo, our company logo out there, and this part here also showing our logo. But once you purchase the model, you can delete these logos and replace them with your company logo. So first and foremost, you'll notice that we have this section written about, and it talks about basically information regarding the copyright notice. And here we just summarize what the model is about and certain regulations and rules that come with purchasing the model. So there is some additional information here which gives you information regarding what you can do after you purchase the model. So if you're very well conversant with the applications in Excel to do with the formulas and the formatting issues, then you can, I'm sure you can deal with whatever you would like to do with the model without consultation. But if you are not very conversant with certain things, you can still come back to Research Expert Solutions. You can either email me at this email or email Research Expert Solutions via that email, and you can also call me via this contact information. So ideally, once you purchase the model, we may need to do some adjustments for you with regards to the database, and the database is usually this section running all the way from January to December. So this information may need to be, the actual information that will be updating for you would be the actual days and weeks, because what you have here is this is Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all the way for, this is for January, right? So we may need to adjust the days subject to the new calendar for the year 2022 and perhaps other years to come. So you may contact us if you're having trouble to do the adjustment yourself. But what we have here is basically a standard model that can be altered in a particular way to suit the organization's objectives, as well as adapt to changes in calendar issues. So yeah, to begin with, this Excel spreadsheet I've opened, that is basically the model, has been named your model here because this is what you will receive when you actually purchase the model, which consists of the database without transactions entered in the actual spreadsheet or data with regards to the sales that you perhaps have been you will be exhibiting. So like for example, you see we have some sections here. This one automatically updates today's date. So every day when you open the spreadsheet, it automatically updates that actual day's date. And then here you are able to insert whatever day a particular transaction occurred. If there is an ID for the client, you can include it there, and the client's name, as well as the client's contact, organization from which the client is coming from, things like that, physical address, type of service or product that you have sold to the client, the mode of payment, price of service or product, and the amount actually paid. Then the balance will basically be the difference between the price that was charged for the product and the amount that was paid. So you see that anyway, before I start explaining that, this is the database that you are going to be using to actually insert your daily transaction. And then there is another spreadsheet that you receive upon purchasing the model, which is named model sample. Now, this model sample gives you an overall view of how your output will be coming out when you insert data into the database, because it consists of hypothetical data that I just came up with in order to give an example of how data should be entered. So for example, of course, after opening the document, it automatically updated the date as of today. And here you will notice that it also updates this column is equal to the actual date here. So whenever you put in an entry of a transaction in a particular row, it will actually show the date that you actually put it on today's date. So that's the whole purpose of this. So this column. So here in this column, you put the date when the transaction actually occurred. Yeah. So basically, logically, it would be expected that today's date should be actually earlier or perhaps equivalent to the day of the transaction. And then here, the client's name, here I put my name there just for learning purposes and avoiding putting the actual names of clients that I receive on a daily basis to avoid issues of confidentiality. And of course, the organization's research expert solutions, physical address, meanhood, type of service. So just for example purposes, I put research project because I usually deal with research projects, and put Airtel Money as a mode of payment, while others of course do pay via the bank directly, but others pay via Airtel Money. So that can be also included, it's up to you. And then the price, of course the price will vary, but for learning purposes I limited the price to 1,000. Yeah, and of course that's that. So what you get at the end of this is the total number, which is automatically calculated, of the sales for the day. So this is basically the sum of all this. So as you input the data, it automatically updates that and also gives you the total number of clients received for the day. So as you can see, it indicates 16, and there were 16 entries here. Okay, so that's basically what it does. So if you received other clients here, it will actually show that. So in order to make the data to avoid errors in your entries, of course it wouldn't be expected that you can insert the same name in all the rows, which implies that you're receiving the same client, but it's showing the total number of clients as something like 16. So ideally, if this client had made a lot of transactions in that day, you can just sum the transactions of that client and indicate the actual things that the client purchased of that day and amounting to a particular amount that you include in the actual total amount. So moving on, we are going back to, so in fact before I move on, okay, so when you come on the sales dynamics, what you get is this interface which shows you the trends of your sales in the short run, in the medium run, as well as in the long run. Okay, then we have this policy section, which I'll discuss later. Let's focus on the short run dynamics now. So what we have is the short run dynamics is a section which shows you the trends of your sales on a daily basis. So every time you update your database, it will graph the magnitude to which you have made sales in that particular day, and the following day it when you update the database, it also does the same. It updates the this section, the dynamics. Okay, so you notice that in January, using the hypothetical data that we are using, say this is January, this is the database, and we noticed that this was on Sunday, as well as this was Saturday and this was Sunday. There were no sales, meaning that perhaps maybe this business does not operate on Sundays and Saturdays, but on Monday we had some transactions occurring, and therefore same applies. If you come here, you'll notice that there were no sales in the beginning, because we have Saturday and Sunday, so the trend is down, and you see that there are dots there implying that there were no sales. But beginning Monday there were sales, Tuesday there were sales, and so because the flow of the sales was constant, that is why you see a horizontal flat consistent line with regards to the trends of daily sales in January. So you notice that if we come here, Monday, this is the Monday we are talking about, it was just 1,000 all the way being received as a result of the sales that were being made. But reality is that this might fluctuate depending on the variation of income that is being received from the sales. In reality, that's if you're dealing with different clients purchasing different products with different prices. So this is the medium run. So this basically captures the short run dynamics, which is basically your daily sales. As you can see, the horizontal axis is capturing the daily sales, and then the y-axis is basically showing us at how much or how much was sold during that particular day. Okay, so this goes all the way up to December. Yeah, there we are. So now moving on to the medium run. So in the medium run, it also shows us by how much sales were being made per week, right? So this is now moving on from the daily sales to the weekly sales. So you'll be able to look at how your sales have been performing on a weekly basis, as well as how your sales were performing on a daily basis. So knowing the daily basis sales performance allows probably the sales representative to be able to understand, to actually make policies that will enable them to adjust their selling strategies, or maybe whatever they are implementing to foster their sales, right? Then the weekly sales analysis would be fundamental for, say, maybe the managers who are interested to see whether this sales representative is actually meeting his or her targets on a weekly basis. So that's basically one thing that can be put into consideration regarding the fundamental importance of capturing the daily sales and the weekly sales. Then the long run sales now will be very fundamental to, say, maybe the director, because the director will be interested to look at the overall performance of the company over the year, right? So this captures information all the way from January to December, showing how the firm has been performing with regards to the sales, right? So that's basically that. So maybe the information to do with the long run sales dynamics would be very fundamental to the director of the company, and the medium run sales may be fundamental to the director, to the managers or those responsible to actually manage sales, then the short run dynamics may be fundamental to those that are actually doing the selling. Okay, so when we go back to the model, the actual model, this is the interface of the model. We're able to see the information in more of a descriptive way with regards to statistics. So basically, this is the financial performance of the business with regards to the sales, which summarizes whatever you are punching into your databases, all the way from April, May, June. Everything that you put in the database is actually computed here. So you don't need to do anything on this section, but what you can change are the policy rates, right? Maybe say you want to change your weekly sales target, you can change this value here, and this will show you whether your employees have been actually meeting their targets, or you as a sales manager, you'll be able to see whether your subordinates have been meeting their targets over the year. Okay, so what you see is that, for example, I fixed the weekly sales target to 12,000, and therefore this section captures whether the sales target has been met over the year or not. But well, as you're updating the database, it still updates this on a daily basis. Then over time, it will project this once the year has completed and you have updated the system up to that particular time. So you'll notice that given that we limit the weekly sales target to 12,000, you notice that all values that are negative indicate by how much the sales were below the target, and values above or positive indicate by how much the sales were above the target. So this is basically called the target execution deflator, which will actually shows you which points to the direction to, depending on whether the sales incurred were above the target or below the target or equivalent to the target. So the red line actually shows us the target execution deflator, which is showing us the actual sales incurred and whether they were positive or negative. So you notice that if we come all the way down here, we also notice something with regards to these graphs. Over the year, you notice that the target line is below the weekly sales, meaning that over the year, the sales have been above the target, which is what every organization wants to see. However, before I even do that, we come on this section. You'll notice that this section has been configured in such a way that if the sales in a particular month, in a particular week, say week 1, week 2, week 3, was actually below or above the target, it will indicate that, and you'll be able to know. So because there is no red line here, it shows us that in all these weeks, the sales were actually above the target. Now let's assume that we change the policy to say maybe the target should be 20,000 a week. So you notice that there is a change in the graph, and the graph is still above anyway. So let's try something like maybe 200,000. So you notice that now there is a change. In the beginning, we noticed that the sales were actually below the target. and there are these periods of times when the sales were actually below the target, because notice that when we look at the graph, all these figures that are negative indicate that the sales were below the target. So here you get a better view that shows you that over the year all the sales were actually below the target. However, if we change this to, say, maybe, let's see what we have. What we have is okay, so let's say we change the policy rate to 100,000 per week. Okay, so 100,000 per week. You'll notice that here we get a better view of what is happening. So you notice that below here in the brackets indicates by how much the sales were below the target, and anything positive indicates by how much the sales were above the target. And when you come to this graph here, you are able to see clearly that from January to somewhere March, the sales were kind of below the target. Okay, then at the beginning of March, they began increasing over time all the way until they increased to December. So when we come on this column, like I said, it's going to show us in which week exactly were the sales below the target. So when you see the parts which are highlighted in red, these indicate that for example, in January the sales were below the target for the whole month, and then in February the sales were also below the target in the whole month, and the target set is 100,000, which is greater than 80. However, in March, in the first week and the second week and the third week, the sales were above the target, but in the fourth week the sales became below the target. But over the year, going to December, the sales were above the target, which is good, and you can see it using the graphs that have been presented here. This will enable you to be able to track the performance of your sales in the company, and quickly come up with sales reports that will actually can be presented to those that may be interested in understanding the dynamics of the sales and how they are performing, and whether the targets are being met, and what can be done to actually improve the targets, either in the short run, medium run, or perhaps in the long run. So that's basically how this model has been designed to be used. Yeah, so for this video that has been made for the first time, we are likely to make more videos because the model is kind of too large, and there are quite a lot of things that may be talked about, and the videos can be too large to be downloaded or accessed. So would like to keep the videos a little bit short so that they can be easily downloaded and people can have access to the information that they need. However, what has been explained is enough for any client who decides to purchase this model to use the model and make sense out of the data that they put in the database to understand the progress of their sales. And lastly, this section talks about, not really lastly, I think I've remembered I need to talk about something else. So this is the summary statistics section, which gives you the total number of sales incurred for the year, right, which is this figure here, and also it gives you the total number of sales in January, February, in all the months, and also forms an overview here, which gives a graphical analysis of what these totals were, and for each month it gives us the descriptive statistics with regards to the average amount of sales in January, the minimum amount of sales in January, and the maximum amount of sales in January, and the total number of sales in January. So everything here is automatically generated as you put in your data in this database. So the database is not complicated. All you need to do is just to insert the details that we were talking about here, and everything will appear in the output, which is basically this output. So for easy reporting purposes, it is very easy to just come up with a sales report by, you click on this, you copy it, and you paste it into the PDF document that you want to use to create a sales report, and give a graphical view of how the firm has been performing with regards to the sales, and come up with something that gives a clear view and something that has potential to enable people to make policies either in the short run, long run, or medium run, right? So that's basically that. And what is wonderful about this model is that it can summarize all this complex data just by a click on this spreadsheet, so which is kind of good, and also updates itself on this column, right, on this section, sorry. So that's basically that. So everything that you do there automatically updates itself on this spreadsheet. And then this policy section just indicates the same thing that was being talked about when we are talking about setting targets. So it's basically showing the target against the actual amount of sales that were exhibited. So for now, I think this information is enough to give you an idea of how to go about using this spreadsheet and data analysis tool that can be used for monitoring and evaluating your sales over daily periods or weekly periods or monthly periods. So that's basically that. However, the model is likely to be advanced over time, because we'll keep working on it in order to improve what it does, and perhaps maybe it might be even more complicated but easier to use. So all right, so if you like the model, you can get back to us by calling us on this number, or rather you can use this number, and you can email me or email us at Research Expert Solutions. So basically that's all we have for you today.